Chapter 25. Summer Camp. Everyone worked long into the night planning for the upcoming raid on the FEMA camp that Kate and her bunch had stumbled upon. Karnak was sickened by what he had heard of veterans being locked up for the pure fact that they had volunteered to fight for their country. After hearing the full report, Karnak didn't know which was more important to him, making the man pay who killed his best friend, or freeing the veterans from their captivity. Karnak's mind told him freeing the men, but his heart told him revenge. Karnak was set on having both. The next day, Karnak stood tall in front of 500 soldiers in formation back at the armory and looked them over with pride. Pride at what they had become, not for money or self-interest, simply for the country and the people they loved. He looked to the far left of the formation and slowly turned his head, looking to the far right end of the formation. They all felt as if he was looking directly at them. Then he began to speak. Men and women of the United Constitutional Militia, you have been placed in a very dangerous position through no fault of your own. You stand here ready to fight for a way of life that no longer exists. With an iron will and a dedication to the oath you have taken, you fight with little rest and no pay. We have done our best to limit American casualties, but soon we will fight against fellow Americans who have lost their way. Karnak paused as he raised a piece of paper from which to read. I'm sorry to say that I was unaware of this, but Army Manual FM 339.40 lists information on internment and resettlement operations. I will not bore you with all the details, but I will tell you this was planned from the beginning. It goes on to say that the camps are for re-education. I don't know about you, but for the men and women in that camp who serve this nation and its people, most have had the right education already. A roar came from the formation, echoing agreement. Karnak looked over the formation once again, this time nodding in response. Without any prompt from Karnak, the formation fell quiet, allowing him to continue. You have your instructions and know what is expected of you. The job will not be easy. I ask only one thing of you, and that is to fight and educate those running the camp on what it means to be an American. The formation erupted loudly. Strike like lightning. Strike like lightning. Boom. Boom. Each time they yelled boom, they slapped the patch on their left shoulders with its crossed lightning bolts. Once Karnak had finished speaking, every man and woman prepared for the mission ahead. Those not going on the raid worked on defensive positions around the perimeter of the armory to ensure that their fellow soldiers had a place to come back to when it was finished. Vehicles of all types lined up along a paved road that ran between the armory and the Missouri River. Karnak was amazed at how many buses Colonel Marks and his men were able to find and make operational. The man truly works miracles, Karnak said under his breath. A runner asked, Commander, did you need something? Karnak longed for the days he carried a radio instead of having at least one private following him around to run messages. No, Private. Everything's fine. Karnak wondered how many radios Marks had been able to make operational. From the last briefing he had received, there were 5. One sat in the Tactical Operations Command and another at the tunnels. Neither was being used. Karnak figured if they were able to track them with RFID chips in their wallets, then blasting out a radio signal in a world where there were very few would be like spraying a bullseye on your own forehead. Karnak had instructed both places to use them only if they were in danger of being overtaken. Karnak began walking from one area of the armory to another, receiving updates on preparations. The UCM soldiers had finished hours ago, as the main things they needed were boots, rifles, and ammo. Platoon sergeants and squad leaders ran soldiers through maneuvers in the fading light, giving them a better understanding of what would be required of them in the morning. Commander, wait up! Karnak knew the voice well. He turned in the direction from which it had come. Miss Wheeler, what can I do for you? Karnak asked, watching her snap a picture of him as she neared. Have I ever told you how much I love photography, Commander? Sandra asked. No, you have not, Miss Wheeler. If you don't have business to discuss, then I'm afraid there are other matters that need my attention, Karnak said politely, as she stopped in front of him before speaking again. I have told you to call me, Sandra or Sammy, anything but Miss Wheeler. Okay, Sandra. What can I do for you? Karnak asked with a hint of irritation in his voice. I want to go on the raid tomorrow. Sandra stood, waiting to follow the no that was about to come from Karnak's mouth with her planned speech as to why. Karnak spoke only one word, just as Sandra had figured he would, but it wasn't the one she had thought. Why? Why? Sandra repeated, stunned by not hearing no. Yes, you should be advised that I cannot ensure your safety. Sandra felt that the speech she had prepared to argue against a straight-out no would still work. I didn't ask you to secure my safety. I'm no longer a reporter, as there is no outlet for me to get the information out. But this is history, and it needs to be documented. Sandra raised the old Canon A135mm camera and snapped another photo of him standing with his rifle in hand. You have already taken my cameraman and replaced his camera with a rifle. Now it's my turn to go, only I'll be keeping the camera. Ma'am, I didn't take your cameraman. He volunteered, Karnak said quickly, as if he were being judged. Yes, I know that, but one day what you have done here will need to be recorded in history. This is important, and I'm needed there, Commander. That is why I should go. Karnak couldn't have hoped for a better reason. We leave at 0500. And one last thing. Thanks, Commander. What is it? Get a weapon. Karnak continued to check on the progress of preparations for the upcoming operation. Hours passed and the light of day vanished. Although he understood the platoon sergeants wanted the men and women prepared for night maneuvers, he also knew that they needed what rest they could get. One by one, he gave orders for the soldiers to eat and rest if at all possible. Karnak informed them that he was going to do the same after checking on the readiness of their lead vehicle. With everyone now resting, Karnak made his way over to the one building that had lights on, though it wasn't noticeable from the outside. The windows had been blacked out to prevent others from coming to investigate. With power out all over, light at night drew crowds of people like moths to a flame. Karnak stepped up to the entrance of the building and gave the door 3 hard hits with the bottom of his fist. Seconds later, the door opened into a room that was noticeably darker than where he stood on the outside. Commander, come on in. Though Karnak couldn't see him, he recognized Colonel Marks's voice. To prevent the light from shining through the door, Karnak had ordered it to be shut off when opening the door, an order he was happy to see being carried out. Stepping through the door and into the pitch black of the room, Karnak heard the door close behind him, and with it, the room was once again lit up. Great timing. We were just getting ready to fire it up and test the hydraulics. Karnak was amazed by the work Marks and his men had achieved. Karnak walked over to what was once a deuce and a half. Now it looked more like a locomotive. On the front were mounted 2 dozer blades at 45-degree angles. Each started out a foot on both sides, meeting 5 feet out from the center of the large truck. Karnak was impressed by the work they had done in such short time. Beautiful, Colonel. Absolutely beautiful. How do you think it will hold up? Karnak asked while running his hands over the top. It will probably be a bitch to steer, but aside from that, it should work just as you wanted. Marks was full of confidence in his men's creation. Not sure how much work it will have to do. Kate was able to drive the bus here, but from what she said and the amount of bullet holes in it, the trip wasn't easy. I don't want anything slowing us down. Karnak could see Marks had put a great amount of thought in the vehicle. Fire it up, Marks ordered to a soldier sitting behind the steering wheel. As the engine roared to life, Marks raised his right hand high in the air, with one finger pointing to the ceiling. With screeching noises coming from the front of the truck, the dozer blades rose at least 12 inches. Marks then pointed his finger down to the floor of the shop, and the blades lowered with a little more screeching. Satisfied with the test, Marks made a fist and then ran his open hand back and forth beneath his chin, signaling that the test was over. With the running engine silenced, Karnak looked to Marks. That is more than I had hoped for, Colonel. I just want the mission to have every opportunity of success possible. Those men locked up in that place deserve better than to be jailed for serving their country. His fallen son entered Marx's thoughts. "That they do," Karnak replied. "Karnak, shouldn't you be getting some rest? You leave in 4 hours." "Yeah, I just wanted to check things. I'm heading that way now."